Should you buy The Race to Crashpoint Tower? Written by Daniel Jose Older, The Race to Crashpoint Tower is one of the newest additions to the High Republic. So I'll first do a spoiler-free review, let you know whether or not this book is worth your money, and if you've already read the book, don't worry because in the second half of this video, I'll also give my full review for it. So if you're interested in either or, be sure to check out the timestamps down below. The Race to Crashpoint Tower is certainly a very action-packed book. From start to finish, readers are guaranteed to get a non-stop action and a pretty interesting alternate perspective to the events that unfold at the same time as the rising storm. For the most part, it's a pretty straightforward story. There isn't a lot of complications or twists given that it is a book for younger audiences. That being said, I don't really have much to comment on about this book. It isn't a terrible book by any means, but I would say it's just okay. And I found this somewhat disappointing given that a test of courage, despite being designated for a younger audience, still provided a far more engaging story. The characters presented in The Race to Crashpoint Tower have a pretty limited arc. The character progression was somewhat limited and simplistic and didn't really leave a lasting impact. Many of the characters presented in the book have already appeared in other High Republic installments, so there will be plenty of familiar faces to go around. There are a few newer characters, but they didn't really leave any lasting impressions on me. But I must say the pacing of this book is fantastic, which is perhaps my biggest praise for it so far. While I may not have found this book to be particularly suited to my taste, I must say it is still a very engaging book for younger readers. The non-stop action will definitely help keep younger fans interested in this era, so in that regard, it definitely serves its purpose. So that being said, if you're already planning or have read The Rising Storm, I would probably give this one a pass. Much of what happens in this book isn't super important and is somewhat covered in The Rising Storm. But that being said, if you have a younger reader in mind, you should definitely recommend this book to them as it makes for a very fun and easy read. But if you're like me, I would probably give this one a pass. So that was my spoiler-free review for The Race to Crashpoint Tower. So for the next part, there will be spoilers coming up. You have been warned. So I don't really want to rehash what I've already said about this book, but I do want to point to two instances in the book which really didn't sit well with me. The first is how the book decided to treat the Drengir. In the story, we learned that the Nile had cut a deal with the Drengir. The Drengir would keep the communications tower from operating, and in exchange, the Nile would give them a whole planet to consume. But it just comes off as a really weird arrangement. We know that the Drengir are intelligent, so I'm not really surprised that they are able to make this deal. But what really bugs me is how the deal falls apart. It basically boils down to the Nile killing the people of Velo, and because of this, the Drengir feel as though they have been tricked, as they wanted the people of Velo for themselves. It strongly suggested that the Drengir are unaware of what was happening, but even if the Nile are killing people, it still doesn't mean that the Drengir can't have their fair share. It just seems like an all too convenient situation which allowed the Padawans to get past the Drengir without having to fight them. And even if that was the case, that the Drengir did feel as though the Nile lied to them, it still doesn't really explain why the Drengir just didn't try to eat the Padawans and then try to eat the Nile. So I'm not really sure about that, or hey, maybe I missed something, so let me know in the comments. The second part that really bugged me was the artwork of Zine, and of course this hasn't really got anything to do with the story itself, but the artwork of Zine is pretty inconsistent to her overall portrayal in the comics. In the books we get this, which is clearly wrong, whereas in the comics she looks like this. So I'm really disappointed that whoever did the artwork really couldn't get this part right. It just seems like a really basic mistake. And given that we are this far into the High Republic, you would really think that the art department would get a better sense of who these characters are and what they should look like. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this book. I'm honestly a little disappointed, and this will probably be one of my lowest rated books in the High Republic era. So let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe for more High Republic content, and I will see you in the next video. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.